Good day, emerging mothers. I'm close to my computer here, so I'm hoping you all are able to hear me. It's so good to see you, and thank you so much for joining. It's Thursday, and it's about 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm here in Sugar Land, Texas, and I'm thinking about each and every one of you and wanting to talk about a topic just to make sure that you all are prepared for your teens leaving the home. And so I know for a fact that what we want to do is we want to make sure that in our roles we're confident, compassionate, and then also we're demonstrating candor in our parenting role. When they're off, we'd like for them to continue seeking our help. And so just establishing that relationship and solidifying that relationship at the very beginning and here as they're leaving, it's so important. So what I want to do is I want to talk about 5 different tips, or share 5 different tips that we can do as parents to make sure that relationship is solid, so that when we are parenting at a distance, that of course our teens will think about their home training, if you will. And by the same token, of course, they'll be open to seeking our advice too while they're away. It's interesting because when they leave home, there are so many other, of course, advisors that enter their lives. And we want them to have that. We want them to have that. Yet we want to, remain near just in case, of course, they need us as well. And so the first thing I want to say, or the first tip I'd like to toss, is that in order to prepare ourselves, they'll be prepared. Of course, we have no problem, and we have been all over the responsibility of preparing them, like from day one, just birthing them, and then them going off to school, to elementary and middle and high school. We've been preparing them all along. However, the focus is on preparing us. We want to, of course, make sure that we're soliciting the support for ourselves and also from ourselves. And what I mean by that is, it makes total sense, when we're, caring about ourselves and wanting to support ourselves, that we take time to just, quiet our lives, and that we, whether that includes us journaling, whether that includes us meditating, for many of us, it includes, including myself, it includes affirmations and speaking things out loud and letting it resonate in my spirit. It could require us, taking walks in the park and just spending that time alone to just, gather and spend time with our own thoughts. So that's what I mean as it pertains to soliciting support for ourselves, yet from ourselves. And then also the solicitation of support from others. I've spoken time and time again about that parent posse. And when we're creating that parent posse for ourselves, we have to identify the type of support we need. And once we're able to identify the type of support we need, then we can, whether it's going through our cell phone or going through, of course, our day timer or our calendar, or it could be our Rolodex, whatever it is, to identify, who is it that could provide the support that I'll be needing. And I would encourage you to obtain that support prior to your teen leaving the home, whether they're going off to the college campus or the military base, or whether residential independence, to obtain that support ahead of time. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is to make sure that we're spending the time that we need to evaluate our emotions. And you know what? It's so interesting because during this time, our emotions can be all over the place. It's a change that's about to take place in our life. And it's important that we assess where those emotions are. Do we need help, or do we need time to manage an area, whether it's us becoming self-aware, just coming to grips with where we are in our life now that, our first or our second or our only teen is leaving home. So that whole self-awareness. Or does it, do we need to identify where we are as it pertains to our social awareness? Maybe while we were raising our teens, our children, who then became teens, maybe we ignored some friendships that we had previously, and maybe it's we may need to reach back out to those individuals whom there's been a disconnect, and maybe there's an opportunity for us to rekindle, of course, that relationship, and making sure that of course we are maybe back in tune with family members or things along those lines. So that social awareness, maybe it's self-management, and we need to kind of look at that area to see, if there's a goal that we're in the process of achieving, are we remaining resilient and determined in reference to pursuing that goal? Maybe that there's something that we're needing to focus on, and making sure that we're managing ourselves as it pertains to that goal. Or maybe it's relationship management. That's that fourth construct under the umbrella of emotional intelligence as it pertains to ourselves, and doing what it takes in order to make sure that we're on track, and that we're focusing and improving ourselves from a holistic approach. So making sure that, of course, we are evaluating our emotions, because when we evaluate our emotions, then we're in tune with ourselves. We're in tune with how we are with other people, and we're making sure that those connections are intact. And then when we do that, when I mean relationships, that includes our teens, we're able to assess where that relationship is. And if it seems as though that relationship is a little strained, it may mean that we need to become aware of that, so that we can step back just a bit and we can breathe, so that relationship can kind of rekindle itself, and even making sure that we're available and we're aware of, even during interactions with our teens where an apology is needed, and being able to give that's important as well. So making sure that we're able to evaluate our emotions. The third tip for this evening is to value and or validate our voice. I remember when I was in the doctoral program, and prior to me wrapping that up in 2017, and even at during the earlier stages of the program, I started off with coursework, and then that gravitated into me being able to identify my dissertation topic. And as I began writing in the earlier stages, my dissertation chair, he would tell me repeatedly to find your voice. Find your voice, Miss Lloyd. I need to hear your voice, because it seemed as though my writing was like I was writing in second person and sometimes in third person, and writing a little bit more indirectly as opposed to directly. And so what I needed to do is I needed to begin orchestrating my sentences, whereas I was became the thought leader in the book that was written, and that I was able to make sure that I was speaking in first person, but then speaking more with an authoritative voice. And so I'm using that same analogy to encourage you, mothers, to value and validate your voice. And when you value and validate your voice, then you're standing in the shoes of confidence. And a confident parent, and a number of you, and maybe all of you already are, and I applaud you. I applaud you if that's the case. For those of you who may have just a couple of issues finding your footing, a confident parent is secure, and they're safe and stable in their speech. When they're interacting with their teen, they're enduring, yet they're rooted in their tone, if you will. If you're accustomed to yelling and your tone your volume is high, your volume is increased, I inspire you to practice self-awareness, to know when that needs to be lowered. If you're more of a passive parent and you're more on the shy side in reference to your parenting, it may mean for you to become just a little bit more solidified in your tone, if you will. Just so that your teen, of course, is able to see that confidence again. And we're talking about tips and things to consider prior to them leaving, so that you're in the shoes of this loving mom, this compassionate mom, this confident mom, who practices candor in their speech, so that again, that relationship remains solidified, even when, of course, your teen leaves the home. So that's tip number 3, I believe. Tip number 4 is to level out your languages. And what I mean by that is to level out your body language and to level out your verbal language. Because again, there needs to be this mix of candor and compassion. And when you're having meaningful dialogue with your teen, there may be a time, and I'm sure there has been and will be, where an issue surfaces, and your teen may bring it to you, and you'll want to, remain. You want your body language to reflect this interest that you have in whatever that issue is that your teen is articulating. And, there's something that happens with the body language, whereas our teens are, we know they'll seek us out. They'll definitely seek us out. And again, it's helping with that connectivity, if you will, of that relationship prior to them leaving the home. And then last but definitely not least, and really the number one thing, of course, that I did as my teen was leaving out of the home, way before, when my teens were still in the tummy, of course, what I did is I positioned myself for prayer. That's what I did. And I made sure that I was postured to receive the power that I needed, of course, from God, to handle the parenting that was forthcoming. And I did that all throughout and continue to do it throughout my parenting. And it's interesting because every morning, for those of you, I know a number of mothers have entered our group, and they have yet to meet me or talk to me, and I have yet to meet them directly or talk to them, then and even now. And my daughters, of course, those who are, there are 2 teens at the home, one is already out, and we still touch and agree before we're leaving home, and we're standing in a circle and we're holding hands and we are praying, because guess what? There's no promise that all of us will return home in the middle of the day, let alone at the end of the day. I can remain confident, of course, because I know where my power comes from. And if in fact I'm in communication with my teen, and there are sometimes, and let's be honest, we don't know what to do, and we do not know what to say to our teens sometimes when they bring an issue to us. I mean, we may reach back and retrieve a certain information or advice that we learned when we were growing up, or that may be in our background, or we may reach back at something that someone may have told us, or maybe we read a book or heard something on the radio or watched YouTube. You know what? But a lot of times we just do not know. I mean, let's just be 100. We may not know, but guess what? Many of us know who knows. And I'm so excited that, in the Bible, it says in Jeremiah 33 verse 3, that, if you call out to me, I will answer you, and I will share with you, or I will tell you those unspeakable things. Some translations say those mighty things. Some translations even say those mysterious things you do not know. And so, those things that I did not know, those things that I still do not know, I know where to go to get the answer. And I've been going to him to get the answer for years and years and years. And I would encourage you to do the same. If you're at a loss for advice, if you're at a loss for what should be done, the actions that should be done in a particular situation or circumstance, I'd encourage you to do that. Listen, for those of you, again, who I have yet to meet, just to tell you a little bit about my story, I, in 2016, experienced my oldest daughter transitioning out of the home. I had spent years and years and years preparing my daughters. She was my first daughter out of 3 who transitioned out of the home. She was scholarshiped into Virginia Tech. We drove her the 17 hours there. Stayed for, a couple of days, and then we came back home to Texas, if you will. Found myself, upon arriving home, found myself on my prayer closet floor wailing, thinking, what in the world have we just done? Leaving our daughter on the East Coast in this big wide world, in the midst of people who do not know her, and whom she does not know. And so I became overwhelmed with just the thought of her being out there. Went to church the next day because we arrived back here on a Friday night, Saturday morning, uncertain. But on Sunday, I found myself just, pulling aside, if you will, more seasoned mothers and asking them how this transition happened for them and what were their thoughts about it, thinking that they were going to say, Michelle, it's no big deal. It's, they left, and it's, it's okay, and life moves on. And that's so far from the truth. I was hearing, oh my goodness, I still, am saddened when they leave the home. And some of them, they have, daughters or sons who are off and married and have their own families. And there's still this heartstring that happens, when our children, our teens, our young adults come and go. And so I became aware that this is a universal theme amongst mothers. I'm sure it happens to fathers as well, but all I know is that I can speak to mothers, and that's why I started this group, just so that we can just rally around one another and comfort one another and support one another. And now that some of you have told me that you'd like to, even hear from people who can prepare you as it pertains to just, maybe your child has has some cognitive issues. And maybe they have ADHD, or maybe they have there's something as it pertains to their mental wellness. Well, guess what? We will have Debbie Berkeley, who will come to us and who will speak and will give some tips on how you can parent your teen, so that when they transition out of your home and they're on the college campus, that they can, of course, be prepared. And I'm sure you've prepared them, but yet more prepared. So drop in the chat if this is something that you will be eager to listen to. I am so excited that Ms. Berkeley has decided to join us, and I look forward to her talk. We will have to let you know the date, and then of course we will drop a bio in the group so you can hear more from her. Listen, I love you all. I appreciate you. This is my life calling, to connect with you and to talk to you and answer your questions. So I love when you all have questions, so continue to have the questions coming, and I will connect back with you and I will answer you. Again, I love you. I'm Dr. Michelle Lloyd. I appreciate each and every one of you. I call us all emerging mothers, because guess what? As we continue to remain connected and hear ideas and thoughts, then guess what? We can emerge in our thinking, and that's what I want for all of us. Take care of yourself. Until next time, please read the quotes, and if there are polls, if you'll respond, that way I can provide what is needed. Because after Miss Berkeley, after her, then of course we will hear from another speaker, and then another speaker after that. Take care, have a good evening, and we'll be in touch. Bye.